Okay, so we need to maintain good posture through turning actions. But what happens now is the techniques that we have, a swing, which if you imagine a child on a swing as going forward and back, creating energy and power. So they use gravity to create a lot of power and drive across the floor. If we don't swing, we can only move so far. As soon as we use gravity, we can start traveling with more energy. So we're going to be turning with power. Okay, so we don't want to turn very slowly and carefully and without power. We're going to be turning with power. So what happens if we put turn and power together, if my feet stop, if you watch what happens at the end of the turn, what happens is momentum, because of the power, pulls me into the direction of the turn and makes me fall backwards. So if I start with my shoulders, my hips, and my feet totally square, and if I turn very quickly with power, the energy keeps going. Once my feet stop, my energy keeps pulling me backwards, so I end up back-weighted. So we don't want that to happen. So shoulders and hips and feet being square, if I turn with power, will pull me backwards. So I want to pre-absorb that momentum. So this is where I came up with the term of positive sides. All it is a wind up in your body. Okay, so if I'm going to turn to the right now, if I start with my shoulders, hips, and feet starting the same way, if I start and finish with that, I've got nowhere to go but backwards. And that pulls me back into that 6 position that we were talking about instead of staying at a 5. So to absorb that momentum, I'm going to put a wind up in my body. So instead of everything starting square, I'm going to start with a wind up. So you can see right now, the right side of my body has come forward. So I'm going to hold my right arm forward here right now. So if I turn with power, what happens is when momentum pulls me back, I'm ready to absorb that because I've gone from a wound up position, I only get pulled to neutral, rather than starting at a neutral position and getting pulled backwards. So I pre-absorb that momentum. I wind up my body so that I have somewhere to go when my feet stop so I can absorb that momentum, and then I can pause myself at neutral. I have a buffer now. So if I was turning to the right, I would put the right side of my body positive. As I land, I have a buffer that allows me to shock absorb that momentum, and then I can control myself onto my standing foot. So that was demonstrating everything to the right. So if turning right has a positive right side, then turning left has a positive left side. So if I'm going to turn to my left, I would wind up the left side of my body. So if my feet were facing square to the front, I'm going to wind up my body so that I can absorb the momentum so that I end up just at a neutral, and then I can control it and have good balance. I'll do that to the side. So I'm going to demonstrate it incorrectly. Shoulders, hips, and feet are all facing the right way. If I turn with a lot of power, I'm going to get pulled backwards and fall off balance. So to absorb that, I'm going to wind up the left side of my body. So you can see the left side of my body is more forward. As I land, you can see that it lands forward, and then when I absorb it, I end up with good posture rather than going backwards into that 6. I end up at my 5 posture. Okay, so I'm wound up, turn to the left, and end up hopefully with good posture there. So the main rule is, if you're turning to the right, you want to have a wind up so that the right side of the body is positive. It's more forward. If you're turning to the left, you want to have a positive left side. So the left side of your body is more forward to absorb that momentum. Okay, so that's your positive sides tool. Okay, so then what happens is as we're dancing, basically we're moving around the floor, turning right, then changing to turn left. So you have changing actions. So if I'm turning to the right, I'm going to have a positive right side, which right now you'll see, but by me stretching my right hand in front to where my feet are facing, you can see that that pulls the right side of my body forward. So this is neutral. I pull my body forward with that hand reaching forward. So that's a positive right side. As I turn to the right, I'm going to, for the moment, maintain a positive right side. So my weight is being pulled forward to absorb that momentum. Now I'm going to do a changing action. I've landed balanced. I'm now going to change myself through neutral and then make a positive left side. So now I'm going to be turning to my left with the left side of my body wound up. So you can see my shoulders and my hips and my feet are not square anymore. There's a definite reach forward with the left side of my body. As I turn to the left, I keep that positive through the landing, go through neutral, and then change again to get ready to turn to the right. So for turning to the right, I have my right side positive, land, then pass through neutral, then you have your left side positive. Make sure you land with a positive left side, then pass through neutral, then change to a right side positive. So timing your changing actions is very important. You need to have landed on balance first before you change. The danger that people get to is they anticipate the next action. So if I was turning to the right, midway through they start changing and it pulls them into a negative position. So I need to make sure I land, pass through neutral, change. Hold positive, land, pass through neutral, change. So make sure you're balanced before you do your changing action. That's your changing actions. Another tool that we have to keep our balance through turn is knowing when to isolate the upper and the lower body. So I'm just going to demonstrate those isolations for you now, and then when we move on in our DVD, you'll be able to see where they come into play. So first of all, we talked about a center of gravity and a center of levitation. Both halves of those bodies have an isolated rotation available to them. So if I just take my thumbs, link my fingers together and have my thumbs at a right angle, and then put my thumbs at the most projected part forward of my rib cage, meaning that if my ribs are sloping away in every other direction, if I'm standing up and straight, my rib cage points are projected forward towards the front of the foot. I'm going to put my thumbs against those points right now just to feel the center of levitation height. So right here, this is where we hold our frame from. And this is where we're going to create upper body turn, is from the spine through to those rib cage points. So here's upper body isolation, which is created from the center of levitation and radiates out to the frame. So I turn my upper body while keeping my lower body fairly still. So you can see I'm just swinging my rib cage from side to side, and then that's radiating out to my frame. So by keeping my thumbs on my rib cage, you can feel that the ribs are moving my thumbs, which is therefore moving my frame, rather than just swinging your upper body around randomly. It has to come from your spine. So this is upper body isolation. We also have lower body isolation. Where that's created from is from the center of gravity down. So if I create that same shelf frame with my thumbs right here, what you can see is I'm going to just come to the balls of my feet and do the twist, kind of like that dance craze a while ago. So you're going to go to the balls of the feet and there's a twisting action. So you can see that my lower body, just going to turn to the side, my lower body is twisting from side to side. So my hips are turning, my feet are twisting. Hopefully as I'm doing that though, you can see that my thumbs are staying very still against my rib cage, which is projected towards you right now. So I'll demonstrate it correctly. It looks as if there was a fence, you wouldn't be able to see anything moving, okay? You would just see me standing and you would see kind of something's going on down there, but no movement. From here, if I do this incorrectly, can you see how I've involved my center of levitation now? So everything's moving, it's not isolated anymore. So I've got to make sure that if I'm isolating that I turn the lower body from the center of gravity only and don't include my center of levitation point. So we have, in conclusion, upper body rotation and lower body rotation. And they're tools that we use later on to keep ourselves in balance through turning actions.